ask you some questions, so please feel free to ask me. It's about our universal journey, the journey that we're all on, the pilgrimage that we're all on, which is from this place of pain that we experience to happiness, which is what everybody in the world seeks. It's the most amazing thing. We live in this apparently crazy world with all of these different things going on. Some we will say so beautiful and some so terrible. But at the root of all of this play, this whole thing, the 7 billion people, the animals, the plants, the earth itself, is the desire to be happy. That's one of the things that we share in common. That is at the root of our being. Is this desire to be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. And the other challenge that we have is going along with that desire to be happy. We don't know where happiness is. So we are greatly confused, all of us, because we keep seeking it, somehow knowing that it exists, but we keep being disappointed along the way, because when we think we found it, or when we think we're close to finding it, it turns out that that's not it. And yoga really is the cure for this condition. And yoga doesn't stand alone. All of these great traditions, yoga is a name for a particular tradition. It doesn't deny any of the other traditions. In fact, yoga, we would say, really is the science of finding the happiness that we seek. It's independent of tradition. It fits all of them. But it is a set of tools to help us to find that which we seek. It's quite amazing. Quite amazing gift. What I'd like to offer, maybe we can just take, you've just practiced, maybe we take just a few minutes in silent meditation, literally a few minutes, and then I invite us to chant just a little bit together, and it's not kirtan, although kirtan's a lot of fun. It is, we'll chant a little bit for world peace, that all world peace. So if we can just take a couple of minutes, just silent, close your eyes, bring the back straight up, head up. Bring the awareness into the breath. Start with a few deep breaths. Breathe into the abdomen. And exhale. Another deep breath. Inhale. And exhale. Deeper inside the breath. Bring it to a rhythm. Observe the belly as it rises on the inhale and falls on the exhale. Just take a couple of minutes and watch that. Thoughts come, let them rise and let them fall. Just be a silent observer and touch the peace within. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. The mantra that I mentioned, that I invite us to chant together, the mantra is Om Namo Narayanaya. Some of you may have heard it. It's salutations to an incarnation of Vishnu in the direct translation, but what it really translates to is, in the tradition, Narayana is an incarnation of peace itself. Peace itself. The real peace, the inner peace. So what we are saying is salutations to that peace which resides within, and which is the fullness that I can find in me and share in the world, that peace. So we chant it for world peace, for inner peace, and for everything in between. So it's just like this, and you'll just join in. We'll just take a couple of minutes to chant. Eyes closed would be good, and back straight still. And as soon as you feel comfortable to join in, just Om Namo Narayanaya. 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 Now just take another minute and stay inside. Keep the eyes gently closed. And just observe inside. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Namah Shivaya. practices prove that peace does exist. If you changed it, if you joined in, you noticed when you took a moment of silence inside this vibration. That is also universal. That also goes with this desire for happiness that's universal. And these things point us to that deeper truth of us. So we see so much diversity, in color and age and gender, preferences and beliefs and desires and all of this, but we have this commonality. You also notice that which is quite amazing when we consider it, that we harmonize with our voices. There's a study that I saw just a few weeks ago that done with church groups, choir groups, about singing in choir. And these physicians hooked up EKG to measure the heart rate of all of the people that were singing. And what they found was that almost without exception, everyone's heart came into a common beat in singing or chanting. So the topic of this discussion, I said it's really about our path, so I'll call it fear and the yoga of kindness. Fear is and the teaching tells us that fear is our biggest challenge of all of the challenges that we have. Fear is the root of all disease. And fear is this force that we see right now manifest in this world in such a big way. We see fear everywhere that we go. We see these acts of terror. We don't have to do anything more than turn on the news or the internet to see and to feel the fear that is being experienced in the world today. All we have to do is turn it on and we feel it. We actually feel it. And we consider whatever it is that, acts of terrorism and terrorists coming, or Zika and Zika coming, or we fear for our job and money and livelihood and partners. We are afraid that we won't get the partner that we want, or afraid that we'll lose the partner that we have, and all of this. And this phenomenon that we deal with, this fear, is dealt with in the great teachings, in the ancient teachings, very directly. Swami Shivananda, who's a great yogi of the 20th century, great Indian yogi, he didn't come to the U.S., but he sent many disciples to the U.S. to teach yoga back in the 50s and 60s. In fact, I don't think any of you will remember this. We might, but the Woodstock Music Festival back in the 60s, there was a yogi that opened the festival, and that was Swami Satsang, who was a disciple of Swami Shivananda, this great yogi of India. And in fact, one of his other disciples, Swami Vishnu Devananda, in the late 50s, came in 57, and about 1960 published a book called The Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga, which became, and still is, recognized by many as the most complete manual of yoga, the yoga practices. Asanas, yes, he taught asanas. In fact, the organization he founded has to date trained more than 40,000 yoga instructors worldwide. He's very deep in the yoga tradition, even the very physical yoga practices that we see around. Swami Shivananda talks about fear. He has a beautiful essay that he writes in one of his books. And he talks about the concept of real fear and imaginary fear, and those two being different, although, by the way, they feel the same. Real fear would be that which is imminent danger. So what would you think to be real fear? What would be a cause of real fear? A car coming towards you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry? Somebody pointing a gun at you. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And you know, many years ago, it would have been a tiger or a lion or a bear baring its teeth and coming towards us. You know, it wasn't that long ago that we lived more in nature, and that would have been the threat. It wouldn't have been somebody with a gun, but there still would have been a threat, a real threat, a very real threat. And it's a threat to the body, of course. And there's and the fear doesn't come by itself. You know, fear is a physical emotion. And now we get to the concept of the cause of disease, or fear itself being a great disease, because fear is physical. It starts as an idea or a reaction to a circumstance, right? It starts that way. So the gun and the person, or the bear, or whatever, or the car, starts with that, and then there's a reaction to that. So it's instinctive. It's in the body, if you will. It's somehow in the body awareness itself. And it's a giant EpiPen, because as soon as that fear cycle starts, the body is firing, the organs are firing off adrenaline into the bloodstream, directly into the heart. It pumps adrenaline directly into the heart. And so what we experience with the fear is a shock to the system that comes immediately. And so we experience, have you ever noticed with fear tunnel vision? Yeah. That you can see very clearly what's directly in front of you, but your peripheral vision is gone? Yes? So the heart rate does what? Goes up. Blood pressure does what? Goes up. What happens to the digestion? It stops. It stops. And this is an energetic thing, because everything in the body is using energy. And in the case of fear, the intelligence in the body is diverting all of the energy to the choice, so the eyes and the senses. But the senses are tuned to the threat alone. There's no attention paid to anything other than the immediate threat, that's all. And then all of the energy from all of the other systems is diverted into the heart and into the bloodstream, to the muscles, to the nerves, allowing you to make the decision to fight or run, and then giving you the strength to either hit hard as you possibly can, or to run as fast as you possibly can. So that's what's happening. It's this great intelligence in the body which is reacting to this fear and diverting all of the energy to that. So what happens is the digestive system stops. And in fact, you know, in extreme fear, we see that the heart can stop. Happens. People have heart attacks because the shock is so great. It's that adrenaline and the heart racing so fast. If the heart is not in good condition, then it can't withstand the shock. And also excretion will happen in the body with great fear, right? And the reason for that is because the diversion of the energy, and everything's tightening up inside. Everything's tightening up. The muscles are just coiling up and ready for action, ready to go, ready to run and ready to fight. So there's real fear. Swami Shivananda talks then about real fear versus imaginary fear. And he says real fear accounts to about 5%. So when was the last time, have any of you recently, over the last few weeks, experienced a bear or a tiger or a gun pointed to your head or a car coming straight at you.
I've heard gunshots.
Yeah. I understand. And hearing gunshots is not really much different from being aware that there are terrorist acts. Right? Because it's not something pointed at us. It's not something where we have a decision to make on fight or flight. Right? It's a different kind of challenge. So, what is imaginary fear? Imaginary fear is that which comes to us, which isn't a clear and present danger, which doesn't dictate a fight or flight response. The psychologists tell us that fear is anticipation of pain. Anticipation of pain. So it's this mechanism to protect us in the event of the event that's in front of us right now. But you know, it works exactly the same, whether it's real or imaginary. Imaginary is the Zika virus half a world away or 1,000 miles away. You know, and there's always something, by the way. Before Zika, there was Ebola, if you remember that. Right? And Ebola was coming. And of course, on the news and the internet, there's always the discussion of all of these things. There's so many diseases now. So many diseases, so many things to worry about. Fear and stress are identical. They're exactly the same thing. And the thing that it would behoove us to recognize is that the body responds exactly the same way, whether it's fear or stress, whether it is emotional or physical, the concern, whether it's imaginary or real. The body works exactly the same. So what we live in today, because of all of these threats, and because of one more thing, what we live in today is this state of constant fear. So what does that mean? That means the body's not digesting properly food. So we eat, we don't know how to eat to begin with, because we're not so great in our choices of food. We don't, even though it's in our teachings of yoga, it's not common knowledge, and we never talk about the fact that food directly links to our thought and the way we think, and that the way we think determines whether we're happy or not. The way we think that's what determines whether we're happy or not. Happiness doesn't lie in any external object. Otherwise, everybody that had a diamond ring would be happy. Otherwise, everyone what experiences make us happy? Everyone would love milk. Everyone would love chocolate. There wouldn't be anyone who didn't. Because if happiness were in the objects, then it would be in the objects, and everyone would experience happiness with the same objects. So happiness is actually an inner state, and it's achieved through our own mental state. It's not achieved through anything else. So the fear does one more thing. First of all, it doesn't allow us to digest, so it means the nutrients that are required in order to have balanced thought and balanced mind, balanced body, don't come in. It becomes psychosis. It actually becomes mental illness, this fear. It becomes mental illness. It manifests as depression. It manifests as poor digestion, as heart disease. Manifests as cancer. It manifests as all of these. I looked pretty recently, a few weeks ago, at a list of the top prescription drugs. And prescription drugs in the U.S. are hundreds of billion-dollar business. So what do you think they are? Sorry? Antidepressants? Absolutely. Right up there. What else? Sorry? Sleep aids, yes. What else? Pain medication, yeah. And? Hypertension, yes. And and cholesterol balancing and that sort of thing. The doctors used to think that the cause of heart failure and heart disease was cholesterol imbalance, high high cholesterol and then cholesterol imbalance. But they're coming to the understanding that it's actually stress. It's actually stress that's causing the heart disease. And then what else? Indigestion, acid reflux, all of that. And these are the common diseases that we're experiencing. And every one of them are related to fear and living in fear. Every one of them. So really, if you want to be healthy and happy, then the path that we have to take is to take us out of fear. It's the only one. And there is a path out of fear. There is. That's the good news. Because fear can be cured. All fear can be cured. First, there are practices that help us to deal with many of the fears. There are practices. And you participate in some of these. So through grace, you already are in a better state. You're more in the moment, more present, more able to distinguish between real fear and imaginary fear than many are. So through grace, you already have received benefit because of the practice of yoga. And even if you don't think of it that way and don't know it, it doesn't change the fact that you're benefiting from it and that you're in a better mental state as a result. You see, the thing about us is that we're not the body. This we never talk about, or almost never, unless you join Satsang or you read, or you follow a Thich Nhat Hanh or any of the teachers of the wisdom teachings of the traditions. Your spirit. You have a body. And this is very important to know, by the way. You actually know it. You know it at the intuitive level, at the deepest level, you know it already. Your spirit, you're not the body, you have a body. So we have to take care of the body because the body is the temple through which we find and reside in the great truth of us. So we have to take care of it, but you're not yet. You're not it. But there's a part of you that thinks that you are. The instinctive self, this body awareness, this center of the fear and anxiety and stress, is not the reality of us. It's not the reality. There's a protection mechanism that exists to protect the body, but it's so loud, so noisy, that we identify completely with the body. You know, whenever we open our eyes, it looks like everybody's separate. It looks like everything's separate. Looks like we have something to be afraid of. But the reality of us is that we're actually not separate. At the deepest level, we're not. This is why we have these common core desires and drivers in our life. This is why everyone, even all the plants, all the animals, have this central desire to be happy. That's really the only desire to be happy. Then we have ideas of what's going to make us happy, but really in terms of desires, it's just to be happy, to love, and to be loved. It's really simple. That's what we want. Have you ever thought about why everybody wants that? And why in this crazy world, crazy mixed up world of all these different ideas and beliefs, and everyone following their own ideas of what's going to make them happy, and no one finding it, by the way. There are very few. There are those that find it, those who really achieve the aim of yoga, and those examples are always with us, they're happy. And I've met happy people, and maybe you have too, that are really genuinely happy and compassionate and loving of all and completely selfless and live only that we may find peace ourselves. These exist. And they're the ones that are happy. But other than that, there's no evidence that anyone can find happiness by following our ideas, right? There's no evidence. And we'll experience pleasure. You know, and I remember this body was very pleasurable at the age of 20. But now it's not so pleasurable. I love chocolate, but I can eat too much and get sick to my stomach. So So there's pleasure, there are pleasurable experiences, but none of them last. None of them last. The only thing that actually will be lasting, is our own state of mind. That's what we depart this world with and come back to it with. So why is it, have you ever thought, there's very little evidence that it's actually possible to find happiness? Right? Very little evidence that any of us know the way. All we have to do is walk around the city for a while and look at people and see how many of them are out and smiling and aware. So why do we keep looking for it? Wouldn't we know at some point it doesn't exist? It's just a myth. You ever thought of that? The teaching will tell us it's because you know that it exists. Very deeply you remember it. But at the surface level, this physical body awareness, you've forgotten where it is. And the teaching will also tell us that you are that happiness. You are that. Rumi. What you are seeking is seeking you. You are what you seek. You are what you seek. And that's our great adventure, great pilgrimage, is to find our own self. It's to find our own self. The spirit, the truth of us. The truth of us. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. You have this tool, all of the senses, the body, all of this. But the tool also is a veil to the truth. It veils the truth. The fear, the anger, the anxiety, the stress, the grief, the greed, the lust, all of these things. It's not that any of them are bad. It doesn't have, this teaching is not a moral teaching. It's not about morality. It's not about right or wrong. It's about you're looking for happiness, and here's how to find it. That's what the teaching is about. I want to read. There's a Bhagavad Gita group that I participate in more or less daily, study group. And this morning I posted...
And it's on Facebook, so anyone who wants to join it, I'll put a link in the Yoga Tribe. Interesting.
So this morning I posted 2 slokas, or 2 stanzas, and one of them speaks directly to this. So I'm going to refer to that. It's the second discourse. So this is one of the... Bhagavad Gita is one of the writings, or one of the teachings, that is this ancient wisdom teaching. It doesn't stand alone as the only pointer to truth, but it's one of them. And this comes after Krishna has told Arjuna the same thing. He's told Arjuna, listen, you're getting it wrong because you're caught up in the physical awareness, and what you don't know is that you and everyone else are actually the great self, the highest self, the divine self. And forgetting that, you are making the wrong decisions. So he's told him this. And now at this point, he starts this teaching of yoga, which is how to find union with the highest self, how to find the happiness that we seek. And as he's making the transition, he says these 2 things. He says, this which has been taught to thee is wisdom concerning Sankhya. So what he's taught is, you are the self, all are the self, the great self, the spirit. That's what he's saying. And now listen to wisdom concerning yoga, or the pathway to find union with the highest self, with which, O Arjuna, thou shalt cast off the bonds of action. And then he says, in this there is no loss of effort, nor is there any harm. Even a little of this knowledge, this integrated knowledge of who we are, actually knowing it at all levels of our being. Even a little of this knowledge protects one from great fear. This was actually talking about the same thing. So here's something to consider. And I know this is not, as I said, in the world we just don't discuss this, and I know we're all walking around thinking I am this body, but now we talk about the truth of us, because we're not. And that's the salvation, too. Is we can find what's really in me, the real nature of me, and be satisfied, be completely satisfied, and be happy. That's what we want. Most of us turn away from this discussion because somehow it doesn't seem pleasing or doesn't seem, and it's not so easy, but it is actually very simple, which is the cure for the fear, the cure for the anger, the cure for all of this is to find our real self, our real true nature, and that it can be found by every one of us, and eventually will be, by the way, because you're so motivated to find happiness that you never give up. You never give up. Because you know it exists. So you take birth after birth after birth to find the same happiness until you reach a point where you've tried so many different things and not found it, not found the lasting happiness that you seek. But knowing that it exists, you come to this practice of yoga or any of the other truth traditions, whether it's the Tao or Buddhism or any of these, meditation, and you say, okay, I'm going to look inside instead, because I hear it might be there. And then a teaching will come to support the path, and that's what this is. That's what this yoga is. And then we can make further progress. And we would say we're always actually progressing, even when we're caught up and mired in the pain and suffering of the normal life, what we call the normal life of going to the bars and this person and that person and this thing and that thing, and this job and that job. Even when we're caught up in that, we can say that we're failing, but that's just an idea, because what we're actually doing is we're on the path to success. We're not failing, we're learning what doesn't work. It doesn't work. And by learning what doesn't work, we're preparing ourselves for success. So it is the path to success. So the teaching of yoga is not just the yoga asanas, and this is what I wanted to share in closing. I'd like to use a couple of examples. And since I walk, or have walked a lot, it was 6,300 miles over the past few years, 19 states, 6 pairs of shoes. So I relate things sometimes to that pilgrimage experience, and there are so many stories, so many miracles. It's completely amazing. So when you walk, if you've walked on a trail or a sidewalk or a street, and especially in the city, this is easy, it won't be long before you come across a piece of trash or a tin can. So if you can go to that experience for a moment, if you look inside at the thoughts that come, what comes? What's one of the thoughts that might come when you're walking along and you see a piece of trash? Anything's valid. Does the idea come to pick it up?
Yeah.
It does. Also universal. But it doesn't come alone, does it? It's accompanied by thoughts of not picking it up. Completely contrary thoughts. Completely contrary. Exactly the opposite.
I get an idea of picking it up, and I get an idea of not picking it up. Right? Universal. Everyone. Now, in some, the pick it up voice is louder, and in some, it's quieter. But it exists. So what are we experiencing? And by the way, if you look at those thoughts and how they come, the idea of picking it up just comes like that. It's just an idea of do the right. There's no drama, it's just do the right. Pick it up. No explanation required. But then the other thoughts that come are all drama. They're all about the body, and so here's what they are. Like, oh, what a beautiful place. This idiot left this here. I can't believe they did that. And then we can go off on the whole drama about, why they left it here and what a terrible person they are and all of that. So that happens. Or we think, I had an example of this yesterday. It was at the Hindu temple of Greater Chicago, south of here in Lamont, and I parked the little RV and I stepped outside and there's a dirty diaper there that someone left right next to it. And so the idea comes, I could get disease from this. So that idea will come. I could get cooties from it. I could get something really nasty from it, which again is rooted in this body awareness. And there can be a lot of drama about that. That can take me into a remembrance of, I'm really afraid of AIDS, or I'm really afraid of this or that, or whatever it is. Then I'm off on that whole thing. Or, my gosh, where's the next trash can? It could be 5 miles before the next trash can. If I'm not in the city, I'm in the country. Could be. I might have to carry this forever. I might have to be really inconvenienced. There are others too, right? Have you experienced any of these thoughts? They're not actually you, by the way. They're just conditioned thoughts. They just come up based upon our own history, our own experience. It's just like when you walk past a Chinese restaurant and you smell food. As soon as the senses fire up with that smell, you're off on the conditioned mind is off on this comparison of, what does that smell like? Which food is it? Is that egg foo young? Is it this? Is it that? I wonder how it is. The last time I had egg foo young was 5 years ago, and I got sick, or that was wonderful, or right. It's just based on our own conditioned experience. These ideas that come, they're not independently real, but they come and we live in them. Okay, so here's what we're experiencing. There are two poles of you. There's the awareness of spirit, the intuitive self, the still silent voice inside, very quiet, but true, universally true. Peace itself, universally true. And that will be a righteous idea. It'll be something that would never harm you or never harm anyone else if you follow it. Right? So this idea of pick it up, do the right is one of those. And then there is the body awareness voice, which is about protecting the body first and foremost. That'll say, don't do it. And then we have a choice. But here's the thing. The intuitive voice leads us to freedom, peace, and happiness. Following that will lead us to that. Following the body awareness voice just leads us to more of the same. More pain, more suffering, more anxiety, more stress, more fear. It's just like that. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with any moral judgment. This is the way all of us are wired. We all have both the physical awareness, the idea rooted in our instinctive self that I am this body, and what's going to make me happy will be somehow tied to pleasing the body, and I need to stay away from all the things I don't like. And then the intuitive self, which is saying, I'm here. Drop these other things. And then we have a battle. And the battle is the inner battle. It's the battle for the soul. And one way or another, one time or another, we have to wage the battle. We have to, because we're going to continue to search for the happiness we seek. We're going to continue to look. This yoga, the practices you're engaged in now, are about turning up the volume on the higher voice and turning down the volume on the lower voice. Whether we know it or not, that's what's going on. Is we're feeding the divine voice and starving the selfish voice, the body awareness voice. And the reason for that is that we might find that divine self, that higher self. And there's more to yoga, and this is the last idea that I wanted to address with you, or chat with you about. So I said yoga of kindness. There's also in this teaching of yoga, Swami Shivananda, this great yogi, would tell us that the yoga asanas and pranayama, which are all very beneficial, and seated meditation practice as well, that these are not the real yoga, that these are preparation for yoga. They're preparation for this pilgrimage and success. Preparation. So we start them, we maybe don't know why we're doing it at the beginning. We do it for physical exercise, and it's great physical exercise. But then something happens. There's some awareness that comes, and we get exposed to a little different view of life and all of that. So Swami Shivanandaji would tell us that the real teaching of yoga is this. And he wrote a kirtan, and I'll chant it for you. I won't put you on the spot. And it's a beautiful call and response, but I'll just sing it for you. So listen. Serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. Be good, do good, be kind, be compassionate. Adapt, adjust, accommodate. Bear insult, bear injury, highest yoga. Inquire, who am I? Know thyself and be free. You will soon attain immortality. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Om. Om Shanti, Om Peace, Om Shalom, Om. So having been armed with the teaching and the desire for happiness and some knowledge of where happiness lay, I started walking a few years ago. And at the time, I was subject to great fear, still. Because even when we come to know where the happiness that we seek is, and the peace, they're the same. Even when we come to know it, the instinctive part of us is still very much alive and alert, and still calling with its own loud voice, come to me. It's in the chocolate, it's in the wine, it's in the next relationship, it's in the job, but the other voice has gained in strength at that point when we have some knowing, and it says, no, I followed you all this time. You never led me where I wanted to be, and now please come with me, dear. Please, my dear mind, I love you. Please, my dear emotions, I love you. Please, my dear senses, I love you. I appreciate the job that you do for me, but I'm not you, and this time you're going to follow me. So with that, I set off to walk across the desert for 3 months. And it was quite an experience. And I walked without much of anything. I had a single bottle of water and a couple of other items. And I walked without asking for anything. And the short version of the story is, I'm here without asking for anything. And that water bottle, I called it the magic water bottle because it was never empty for more than 2 hours without asking. And by the way, I hid it away. Nobody saw it. I didn't do this. I didn't. What I did instead was I focused on service and kindness. Master's teaching, Swami Shivanandaji's teaching. I I focused on learning how to be kind and how to share kindness, how to smile and convey love with a smile, how to, most of the people that I meet, it's not like this, although it's changing now. It was in cars that were driving towards me. I learned how to wave so that people didn't think I was crazy and I didn't scare them off, so that they would see that I was saying hello and validating them, and the goal was to help them to lift out of whatever pain they were in at the moment. Because we all, when we're in our own world, our own mind world, we're always in some sort of suffering. And it's when we come out of that and find these moments of selflessness that we are out of the suffering. I would pray for them and say, beneficial work. And then I'd say good morning to the sun, good night to the moon, and I talk to the stars, and I sing with the birds, and I touch all the trees, and I talk to the grass and the water and the corn, all the food, and tell it what a wonderful job it's doing and how much we appreciate them and the sustenance that they provide and all of it. So my life, and what else? I would move the nails off the side of the road and the big rocks and all that, so people wouldn't run over them, and close the mailboxes. If you ever wonder what a pilgrim does, it's this kind of life. Like this, just very much in the moment, and whatever opportunity was provided for service, I would do my best to do that. What they discovered is a whole new world that we don't typically see. A world where there is kindness manifesting through all. A world where when water is required, water is given. A world where when shelter from a storm is required, shelter from the storm is given. In short, I came to see the world as a series of miracles, with nothing random, with all of it interconnected, with all of the experiences helping us to grow, to come out of this body awareness into the greater awareness of who we really are. So I espouse this integrated yoga, the yoga of kindness, because with these practices, they all help. They're purification. The real yoga is reached by using the discrimination that those help us with, practicing meditation, and then really practicing kindness, finding a way to come out of our own shell, our own body awareness, and to be a force for kindness in the world. And my God, this world needs that. We tend to look at the things happening halfway around the world, and we get stressed out about them. And the reality is we bring those back to everyone we meet. Because when we're angry and afraid and in this terrible place, we somehow think that we're taking on some social responsibility. We'll justify that, the mind will. But in reality, what we're doing is we're bringing that, whatever that terrible thing is that we're seeing, we're bringing it into our friends and our family and everyone we meet. And we're just making this world a more stressed out, more fearful place. That's all we're doing. And we do that. We have a great force. We are a great force. We make a difference every moment. And if we're associated completely with the body awareness and the fear and the anger and the anxiety and everything else, then that's what we perpetuate. And everybody follows each other. We all are following each other. But if I can touch through my practices the peace, and if I can smile at the person in front of me and say hello and be kind and maybe find a prayer or a thought of a beneficial thought that they may find peace, instead of feeling anger, find the ability to find compassion. Because anyone who says or does anything unkind to us is doing it because of their own suffering. Notice because we suffer whenever we've done something unkind, we didn't intend to hurt the other person, not really. Right? We just did it because of our own suffering, our own pain, our own confusion, because we weren't really paying attention to what we were doing. It's the same for all of us. So the ability to find kindness, to find compassion, these are the divine attributes. And what we find is that if we can take steps towards loving the unlovable, towards saying hello to the stranger and smiling at the stranger, towards actually looking at people and considering them and bringing a thought of kindness, then we free ourselves. We help them for sure, and we also help ourselves. Instead of piling up more fear and anger and anxiety, then we break through it. We break through it by facing it and by striving to find. So to the extent I can encourage you on your journey, on your pilgrimage, to let you know that you can find and you will find what you're seeking, you will. You will. And you're not failing whenever you're down on yourself. You're not failing at all. You're in the process of success and finding what you seek. You are a great force within this world. A great force within the world. For either of the voices, you have the potential to be a leader in what the world really needs. And it's not too hard. It takes some energy. It takes some thought. But it makes such a difference. And a smile and kindness changes everything. It changes everything. It changes you. That's the great mystery of it. It changes you because you find out, life's not so bad. I smile, people smile back at me. Or I smile and people don't smile back at me, but it's because they're in their own world and they're suffering. And maybe I can do something to help. There's one more practice I invite us to do, just in closing. A peace pilgrim would do this. It's a little mantra. It's from the Western tradition, from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And this time, instead of repeating it outside, I invite you to just repeat it inside, in the mind. Just observe what happens. Use a deep, resonant voice inside. It's a psalm, one of the psalms, and it's a great teaching. I will say it, and you'll repeat it inside. Each time we'll take a word or two away. We'll just take a couple minutes. Close your eyes gently. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. So we come together as friends. My mission really is very simple. It is to do my best to embody the teachings that I've been given, to share them with anyone who would like to hear and observe. So I have a website. The website is called FromFearToPeace.org. It's the number 2. You can probably remember that, FromFearToPeace.org. all my contact information is there. I post on Facebook regularly. I'll ask if, in closing, if we can take a group photo, and that'll end up on Facebook, just to let you know in advance if you're not Facebook adverse. Reach out to me anytime. So I'm here as a part of your path to honor it, to support it in any way that I can. If I don't know something, there's so much I don't know. I might know something about who might be of help. So I'm happy to. So in other words, please call me or reach out to me anytime. Okay? Thank you so much. Bless you. Okay, photo?
Leg movement?
I've done wine now.